Good morning, Doc. I would like to present to you my report about principles of high quality assessment. This would comprise for our coverage of weeks number 7, 8, and 9. I would like to introduce the learning objectives for the report. At first, recall the taxonomy of educational objectives, state the benefits of specifying clear and appropriate learning, discuss the kinds of achievement target as indices of learning, write illustrative learning targets from a lesson in elementary or high school subject as an example, distinguish desirable qualities of good test instrument as basis for judging the quality of classroom assessment, characterize types of non-test instruments, explain test standardization, classify types of validity evidence, establish relationship between validity and reliability, and techniques in establishing validity and reliability. First, let's talk about teacher-made tests. Most of the tests students take are teacher-made tests. These tests are being conducted by teachers. Teachers should make sure that in making tests, it should be anchoring what the curriculum is, what the objectives are, and the goals as well. It's very important that if it's a teacher made, all the tests that are being placed by the teacher that could be conducted to the students should always tackle the lessons that she will be giving. So, how are we going to balance among the following? According to Bennett of 2017, tests should be balanced among the following. Number one, it should have a short answer or paragraph answer. Number two, words, pictures, maps, and diagrams are very important. Number three, easy and or difficult questions could be formulated. Number four, factual knowledge or application of knowledge. And number five, knowledge skills. As much as possible, test questions should be given with a meaningful content. This is a great challenge for teachers to do that because some of the test questions doesn't really have that meaningful context or related to the certain topic. It would be best that these tests should always be anchored properly as to what were the expectations, what are the things that the student would like to learn in connection to the curriculum. Poor, this is a very good example. Name the continents and ocean. Better, name the continents and ocean as shown in the map. Provide a clear map with continents and ocean numbered. Another poor example of test question is mark the following if true or false. And it's better if you say mark the following if true or false. For false statement, rewrite them and to make sure that it's true. Another example of being poor, answer the following questions. It would be better if you say, write 2 questions that you have about the following topic, describe how you have improved in a skill while doing these unit, and list 3 things you have learned that you've enjoyed most and the like. Second, students should not be penalized with a low mark because they are weak. In reading or writing, these students may be assisted in one of several ways. That's according to Bennett of 2017. So first, the teacher might go over the test beforehand and read and explain each question. It's very important that teachers should explain it rather than students would keep on asking questions. Tests could be done in small groups or with a partner. Teacher might form a small group during the test and quietly read each question with group, allowing time for students to write their answers or give them orally. In some cases, it may be appropriate for some students to have a tutor or coach them beforehand. Third, according to Bennett, the teacher might choose to use format different from a conventional test. So these are examples. First, make up a test that has many questions or groups of questions. As there are students in the class, students should be reminded during the test to double check the number of their questions. Second, a variation of this is the use of testing questions where a variety of materials are set up and a group of students would answer a set of questions or respond to some directions. So there are types of tests which has several advantages. Number one, it allows a teacher to use pictures, new articles, special map, artifacts, library books, among others. Second, students can finish the test at the same time. Third, if the answer is straightforward, it could be marked by the student immediately after the test. Answers could be discussed along with maps or artifacts that are being used. It may be advantageous when tests for students attain, say for example, using of index, locating a catalog, assessing online information, or interpreting a legend or a map. There should be no surprises when it comes to students' evaluation. It's very important that students should be aware of the evaluation criteria and procedure for them to be guided. They should have a role of evaluation process as well, and they should receive regular feedback as to how they are doing, and that's according to Bennett of 2017. With fairness as what is being shown, it's part of the good ethics of a teacher that students should be aware of what things that are being done to them. Teachers would be most interested in the content validity of their tests and how well their test items represent the curriculum to be assessed, which is essential to make accurate inferences on students' cognitive or affective status. That's according to Howard of 2015. Howard also emphasized that there should be no obvious content gaps, and the number and way of items on a test should be represented should represent of the importance of content standards being measured. Test items could be classified as selective response, and say for example multiple choice, no, that's commonly being used, or true or false that are modified, or constructed responses as well. Say for example we could have essay or even short answers. So when constructing either type, according to Popham, offer five pitfalls to avoid, all which interfere with making accurate inferences of student status. And these are as follows. Number one, unclear directions. Directions are very important since these directions could guide students as to how they could attack the test that is given. Number two, ambiguity of statements or ambiguous statements. So it's vague or it's not really that clear. And this would lead to lots of questions coming from students if teachers couldn't even explain it. Number three, unintentional clues. Number four, a very sophisticated or complex phrasing. And number five, the difficult of having the vocabulary or difficult vocabulary. According to Popham of 2003 on his book, on the first release or the first edition, high quality assessment can always be achieved if, number one, evaluation is based on clear stated objectives. Objectives are very important since um, uh, these are very specific, no, in terms of what are our targets, what are the things that we have to implement, what are the things that we need to do in order for it to be achieved. And evaluation procedures and techniques could be selected in terms of clearly stated objectives. It will be best that we have to follow the smarter format. Smarter format would include specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound, effective, and efficient, and at the same time rewarding to the students. Okay. Number three, evaluation should also be comprehensive. It needs to be understood by students. And evaluation should be continuous and integral part of the teaching learning process. Without evaluation, we couldn't always see to it if we have to reassess it again or we have to go back to certain parts such as the implementation or even the setting of goals and objectives, because evaluation is a way for us to evaluate things in our plan. Okay. Number five is evaluation should be diagnostic. Diagnosis should always be part of the integral process or teaching learning process, because in such if there is diagnosis or if we could diagnose, no, there would be certain objectives that could be brought up on it, certain interventions that could be provided by the teacher, and thus evaluation would take over. Number six, evaluation should be cooperative. And lastly, evaluation should always be judiciously done. So establishing learning targets. Establishing learning targets that includes educational goals. And these are very general statement of what students will know and be able to do. So types of learning targets. So according to Marzano and Kendall of 1996, they identified five types of learning target. And first, it's the knowledge and simple understanding. Number two, deep understanding and reasoning. Number three, the skills. Number four, the products. And number five, the effective. So let's go into the different principles of high quality assessment. That's according to Klinger of 2016. There are 8 principles of high quality assessment that is being stated, and we're gonna walk in through each high quality assessment principles one by one. So just to enumerate, that's clarity of learning target. Number two, appropriateness of assessment method. Number three, the validity, reliability, fairness, positive consequences, practically and efficiency, and the last one is the ethics. First, let's tackle about clarity of learning targets. That's the knowledge, reasoning, skills, products, and affects. So assessment can be made precise, should be accurate, and dependable only if what are to be achieved are clearly stated and very feasible. The learning target involves knowledge, reasoning, skills, products, and effects need to be stated in behavioral terms, which denote something which can be observed through the behavior of the students. That's actually coming from Roger of 2015. Clarity of learning targets to be continued. No? So first, cognitive target is being provided here or being targeted. It's more into the thinking, the analysis, the critical thinking, the comprehension of the students. Bloom of 1954 proposed a hierarchy of educational objective at the cognitive level. And these are as follows. Number one, knowledge. So when you talk about knowledge, it's more into acquisition of facts, concepts, the theories that we are learning. Comprehension, it's more into understanding. This involves into cognitive and awareness of the interrelationship among the different processes. Application, very important. This is the transfer of knowledge from one field of the study to another or from one concept to another concept in the same discipline. Number four, analysis, breaking down of concept or idea into components and explaining the concept as a composition of these concepts. And we have synthesis. It's an opposite of analysis. It entails putting together, summarizing, reflecting the components in order to summarize the concept. And evaluation and reasoning. This is valuing and judgment is there or putting the worth of a concept of a principle. Continuation of clarity of learning targets. This also has skills, competencies, and abilities targets. So skills, these are specific activities or tasks that a student can proficiently do. Okay, say for example, in our college, in the College of Nursing in SWU FINMA, we always make sure that our students are competent enough in doing skills, and these skills that they will be able to learn, such as skills in inserting nasogastric tubing, IV fluid insertion. We also have dunning and duffing, and so on and so forth, etc. No, so it's very important for them to have that kind of skill. Competencies, following the rubrics, clusters of skills that students should hit. The competencies should always should be attainable for students, and it should be it should be specific and measurable at all times. Okay, abilities made up of relate competencies categorized as cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. And products, outputs, and project targets. So these are tangible and concrete evidences of students' ability and needs to clearly specify the level of workmanship of projects. And aside from the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, we also have the one which is more into the expert, the skilled, and the novice. So the leveling of the performance of the students. So clarity of learning targets. POPAM of 2000 as suggested the following sequence of instructions. So this determines a specific learning target and their sequence for instruction. A standard may be composed of one learning target, and each learning target typically is a subunit, which includes the following: the content, so what the student must know, connected to the learning target. The skill, what does the student should do, connected to the learning target. The assessment for learning that will be used to keep students informed of their progress and to design next step for instruction. At the same time, assessment of learning should cover the content of the entire unit. It's not just a specific part, but the entire one in general. The lesson should be designed to teach students the learning targets, and it should always be student centered and not teacher centered. Number two, appropriateness of assessment method. So this is more into a written response instrument. So objective tests, these are appropriate for assessing the various level of hierarchy of educational objectives. We also have some essays, no, which we can test the students grasp the higher level cognitive skills, and we also have checklists. List of several characteristics or activities presented to the subject of a study where they will analyze and place a mark opposite to the character. Appropriateness of assessment method, which is to be continued. So, letter B is product rating scales. It is used to rate products, like, say, for example, book reports, maps, charts, diagram, notebooks, creative endeavors. We also need to develop in order for us to assess various product over the year. And letter C, performance test. It's more into the performance checklist of the student. Consists of the different behaviors that make up a certain type of performance. And it's used to determine whether an individual or a learner behaves in a certain way when asked to complete a particular task. Just a continuation, letter D is more into oral questioning. It's very appropriate to have this kind of assessment method when the objectives are as follows. So, we will be able to assess the students, no, stock knowledge, and determine the student's ability to communicate ideas in coherent verbal sentences. And letter E, observation and self-report. So these are useful supplementary methods when used in conjunction with oral questioning and performance tests. Number three, something valid, or what you call validity. A valid test is one that measures that is supposed to measure. So what are the types of validity? So we'll have the phase, and question would arise, what do students think of the test? Number two, construct. Question would be, am I testing the way I thought? Number three, the content. Question would arise, am I testing what I thought? Number four, criterion related. Question would arise, how does this compare with the existing valid test? So tests can be made more valid by making them more subjective, and this is more into the open item tests. Just a continuation more on validity. Validity, appropriateness, the correctness, meaningfulness, usefulness of specific conclusion the teacher reaches regarding the teaching learning situation. So content validity, when you talk about content validity, it is the content and format of the instrument. And what does it cover? First, students' adequate experience, coverage of sufficient materials, and third, reflect the degree of emphasis. And when you say face validity, it's the outward appearance of the test, the lowest form of test validity. And criterion related validity, the test is judged against specific criterion. And construct validity, the test is loaded on a construct or factor. Number four would be reliability. Reliability talks more into something that works well, that you can trust. No, a reliable test is a consistent measure of what it should supposed to be. So, say for example, we have here question A. No, so can we trust the result of the test? Would we get the same result if the tests were taken again and scored by different person? So tests can be made more reliably by making them more objective, and this could be in controlled items. And according to Popham of 2000, reliability is the extent to which an experiment, test, or any measuring procedure yields from the same result of repeated trials. So we have to do testing, experimenting, just to make sure if these are reliable. Because the more that we are using, and if it's not being validated or don't have any reliability, tendency is we are starting from scratch, and if we start from scratch, we need to have it validated in order for it to be reliable. Another thing that was being discussed by Munoz of 2015, equivalency reliability is the extent to which two items are being measured into identical concepts at an identical level or difficulty. So the equivalency reliability is determined by relating two different sets, no, of test scores to one another to highlight the degree of relationship or association. Munoz also stated that the stability of reliability, sometimes called test, retest reliability, is the agreement of measuring instruments over time. So to determine stability, a measure of test is repeated on the same subject at a future date. And Munoz also added that internal consistency is the extent to which test or procedure assess the same characteristics, skills, or quality. It's a measure of precision between the observers or of the measuring instrument used in the study. Munoz also added that reliability is the iterator in the extent to which two or more individuals, coder or raters, agree. Iterator reliability addresses the consistency of the implementation of the rating system. Number five, that would be fairness. The concept that assessment should always be fair would always cover number of aspects. So what are the aspects that being covered? Number one, student knowledge and learning target of assessment. Number two, opportunities to learn of the student. Number three, prerequisite knowledge and skills. Number four, avoiding teacher stereotype. Number five, avoiding bias in assessment tasks and procedures. Number six would be positive consequences. According to Wiley of 2015, learning assessment provides students with effective feedback and potentially improve their motivation and or self-esteem. Moreover, assessment of learning gives students the tools to assess themselves and understand how they improve. In this way, positive consequence on students, teachers, parents, or other stakeholders are being noted. Seventh would be practicality and efficiency. So when we say practicality and efficiency, it's something to do about being practical and something effective in real situation. A practical test is one in which we practically administer, say for example, these questions. Will the test take longer to design than apply? Or will the test be easy to mark? Tests can be made more practical by making it more objective, and it's more into controlled items by the teacher. Continuation, teachers' familiarity with the method, time required, it's very important. Complexity of administration, ease of scoring, ease of interpretation, and of course, the cost. So teachers should be familiarized with the tests and should not require too much time and be implementable. So reliability, validity, and practicality. So it's more into the problem. So the more reliable a test is, the valid. The more valid a test is, the less reliable. The more practical a test is, generally, the less valid. So what's the solution? As in everything, we need to be balanced in both exams and exam items. So that's the best thing to do, balancing. Number eight, which is the last one, ethics. You need to have an informed consent. It's very important that students would always have that consent for them, that we get from them. We also need to be confidential, and there should be anonymity. That means to say that in gathering data, recording data, reporting data, ethics should always be there, and confidentiality and anonymity should always be there, and that's a great value that the teacher should have. Ethics in assessment, right or wrong. Okay, that's more into the ethics. So first, confirming to the student of conduct of a given profession or group. So first, you have here the ethical issues that may be raised. Possible harm to the participants if ever they things that would somehow lead them, to possible harm. Confidentiality, the presence of concealment or deception, and temptation to assist students should always be noted. So, importance of ethical principle in gathering, recording, and reporting assessment. So, according to Miller, there are several reasons as to why is it very important to adhere to ethical norms in assessment. First is that norms promote the aims of assessment such as knowledge, truth, and avoidance of error. Say for example, prohibition against fabricating, falsifying, or misinterpreting assessment data promote the truth and minimize error. Grunlund of 2013 also added that observing ethical standard is very important for all information gathered, which involves people, including program monitoring and evaluation and even research studies. However, extra precaution are needed to protect young people who are especially vulnerable. They're in the vulnerable population to exploit, could be abused, or even have a harmful outcomes. So, going back to what is test, Anastasi of 2000 was able to identify that test is a deliberate attempt by people to acquire information about themselves or others. So, test serves three different functions. Number one, they provide information that are useful for improvement of instruction, in making administrative decision and for guidance purposes. So that serves the three function. The word test is usually used to describe a systemic procedure for obtaining a sample of student behavior. And a test is a sample of behavior, product, answers, and performances from a domain. And that's according to Anastasi of 2000. So there are three basic concepts in understanding what a test is according to Bennett of 2017. So first, a test focuses on a particular domain. So what is a domain? When you say domain, the test is designed to measure a particular body of knowledge, skills, abilities, or performance which are interest of the test user. Number two, it constructs in a theoretical idea developed to describe and to organize some aspect of existing knowledge. Construct allows teacher to describe and organize, observe differences in behavior among people. The second one is a test is a sample of behavior, product, answers, or performance from a domain. So what is sampling? When you talk about sampling, it's more about the test is in a sample of behavior, product, or performance from a larger domain of interest, and teachers could never ask students all the possible test questions about fourth grade arithmetic. Just say, for example, no, in mathematics. So they select a sample of problems which represents the important parts of the domain. And a test is made up of items. So items are being sampled from a domain present up until the basic building block of a test. A test serves as a vehicle to observe an attribute, such as written test, an observation of an oral question. The test scores refer to an indication as to what was observed through the test and can be qualitative in nature or to a teacher. A test gathers important information. Does the student really get what the teacher is trying to teach him for the past few weeks? Or standardized tests, which are certainly not only this kind of tests in which teacher use. However, it's the tests that are only how teachers do it the way that they can in order to assess what students have learned. So positive consequences of assessment to student, teacher, and parents. So Phelps of 2017 says that Assessment is a key component of learning. Why? Because it helps students learn. When students are able to see how they are doing in class, they are able to determine whether they understand course material. Then assessment can always help motivate students. And just as assessment helps students, assessment helps teachers as well. It's vice versa. Richard of 2017 also said, for positive consequences, parents' involvement help extend teaching outside the classroom. This creates more positive experience for students and helps students perform better when they are in school. It's also essential for parents to support the learning that happen in preschool setting at home as well. So that ends my report, Doc. Here are my references in APA Style 7th edition. So concerns or any questions are available during our synchronous meeting. Thank you for listening and have a great day.